Okay guys, so as you can see, we're out here on the water today, and in this video we are going to, I guess, try to see what is the best spool tension setting for the new Metanium DC. And I'm doing this test because if you've watched my previous videos on this reel, you'll know that it's very different to other Shimano DC reels, and it doesn't seem to be quite as beginner or user friendly as reels like the Scorpion DC, SLX DC XT, etc., reels that share the same IDC5 brakes. Now, in pretty much all my tests as well as cast battles I've done with this reel, the spool tension setting has been set to just minimize the lateral or side-to-side play, just like Shimano recommends in their instructions. But what they also say in their instructions is you can adjust that as needed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a few casts with the spool tension setting, how I normally run it, which is to just minimize the side-to-side play. And I'm going to take some measurements with the line counter, and then I'm going to tighten the spool tension to where the lure just falls real slow, and when it hits the water there's maybe a couple of loops, which is what I refer to as these tight spool tension. Then we're going to take some measurements and see which one actually casts better. Now, of course, I'm going to be trying to go as low on the brakes as I can in both spool tension settings, and let's find out. So I got the Metanium mounted on my JDM JACKALL BPM 6'9" medium heavy bass rod, which I would consider a fast action, and I have 12-pound monofilament tied on, and the lure we're going to be casting is this half-ounce frog with the legs trimmed down. Now, I know there's some people that will say that people who have this kind of reel generally don't use mono, and that might be true to a certain extent, but I definitely would use mono as a dedicated topwater setup. So let's set the reel up. I'm going to put it in nylon mode, or N. We're going to turn the fine tuning latch to maximum. Let's make sure I got my spool tension set. Okay, there we go. Side-to-side play just minimized. The lure falls real fast. Okay, I'm going to do a few casts just to let the line settle before we start measuring. Here we go. Now, if you recall, in my previous testing, granted I was using a different rod and different line as far as brand and poundage. I was using 10 pound instead of 12 like I'm using today. I was not able to go very deep into the brake settings. I think maximum or number 4 was as low as I could go, and number 4 was even iffy. So the theory is that if I tighten the spool tension, I might be able to go down a little bit lower on the brake setting and theoretically possibly get longer casts. So we're going to find out. Okay guys, off camera I was casting around in the, I guess you would call it the number 4 fine tune setting, and let me show you the spool when I do that. Oh wow, I am very close to casting all the line off, and I think this is probably going to be the lowest I can definitely go as far as the fine tuning. So I'm going to try to do the most, I guess, consistent cast and we're going to start measuring. All right, here we go. Boom, look at that. All right, let's see. Okay, so according to the line counter, it says 851, so that was 149 foot cast. Or at least that's how much line was casted out, 149. Okay, here we go with cast 2. All right, so I'm gonna flip the line counter around this time, and okay, so according to the line counter, 143 feet. All right, let's do one more. Okay, so the third cast also 143 feet. So pretty consistent. So now let's tighten that spool tension knob up. Okay, so I've tightened the spool tension up so you can see that the frog does not even start to fall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly loosen it. All right, so I think it's too loose because if I didn't stop the spool, the backlash would have been really, really bad. So I'm going to reset that, but just a quick note. The spool tension on the Metanium DC looks real cool, but there's hardly any room to make adjustments, especially if one of the drag star arms is in the way. But, all right. There we go. So the frog falls, and there's just a few loops overrun. It could be tighter, but doing this is the way that any reel can be set up to not overrun or even just cast thumb free. Watch. Casting the frog out. I don't even have to stop the spool with my thumb. Any reel can do that. Any $20 cheap AliExpress reel can be set up that way. So why would you even spend, $500 on a fancy electronic brakes if you're not going to let the brakes do their thing? But, everyone is entitled to set their reel up how they want to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the limit of the brakes in this spool tension setting and then show you what happens. Okay, fellas, so on this spool tension setting, I was actually able to turn the fine tuning latch all the way down to minimum. And let me show you what the Metanium DC can do now. Okay, so very controlled cast, no overruns, but let's see what the distance is. Distance looked to be about the same to me, but let's see what the line counter says. Oh, it says 100 and well, it's actually in between 136 and 137. So we'll say 137. All right, let's do 2 more. See, I don't even have to stop the spool with my thumb. But visually, these distances look about the same as the loose spool tension setting with the brakes on 4. And here's the thing, I can definitely feel the spool is slower and less free casting. Definitely not as an exciting casting experience. Okay, so the line counter says 139. All right, we'll do 1 more. Okay, I have a feeling this one's going to be the longest because it was the most, I guess, rainbow-like cast. Actually, it says 128. Well, between 128 and 129, so the shortest yet. We'll do 1 more. We'll throw this cast away and we'll do 1 more. Jeez. Okay, 138 feet. So I'm back at home and we're just gonna, I guess, quickly finish this video off by going over my thoughts and observations on this test. And just to recap, when I had the spool tension set tight, I was actually able to go to minimum on the fine tuning latch, and when I had the spool tension set loose, I was actually able to only go 1 click down for maximum, which was right there. So you're looking at a much higher brake setting for the loose spool tension setting, but as you can see, hopefully you guys did the math, it really didn't matter, because by letting the DC brakes do their thing, the loose spool tension with the higher brake setting easily outcast the tight spool tension with the lower brake setting. And that wasn't by a lot, probably around 5 foot, but one huge benefit of running a loose spool tension is being able to pitch much easier and much better than with the tight spool tension, especially if you're pitching lighter lures. Something like this, which weighs only about 5 grams. A loose spool tension will pitch a lure like that much easier. And another benefit, at least in my opinion, is that the spool was much faster and freer casting, therefore making this reel much more exciting versus tightening up the spool tension and running less brake. So there we go, guys. We've answered the question about what spool tension setting is better for the new 24 Metanium DC, and to be honest, this probably applies to pretty much all bait casters out there for the most part. Now, I'm a big proponent of doing what you want and setting up your reel how you want, but if you want to get the maximum performance out of a high performance, high dollar reel like the 24 Metanium DC, you are definitely going to have to loosen this spool tension up. Alright guys, thanks a lot.